Have you seen Succession, Nicole?
Yeah, I watched the first season. I
Okay.
haven't started the second season yet. I know Dash is in the fucking third season, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, I really liked first season. I am super down bad for Roman.
Same,
He's a little
same.
gremlin.
My friends were a bunch of my friends were in town this last week, and the quote that ended up being the catchphrase of the trip was the one like Succession edit of the "Yas, slay, very high camp." It just became something that we kept repeating the entire time. um I don't know where it came from. And
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't sound familiar. I don't know. Maybe someone said it during like because I've only seen the first season, just during the bachelor party.
Well, I think it's a clip from it's three different clips.
Oh, and they're just like spliced together.
Yeah. But
And
I
one of
don't
them
know.
isn't like from the show, it's from like a random Jeremy Strong interview that he did.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, is I don't know where the Matthew McFadden saying "slay" as Tom comes from, because
I think that's also like from another interview with the actor.
It's him.
It was his press tour for Pride and Prejudice. He was talking about Jane Austen. That bitch could slay.
I really hope that, I think part of the humor would be if it's not even him saying just slay. Like, what if it was like some other word they cut like a slice from?
I slayed the dragon, or
Yeah.
I
Taking
what does Santa take a ride on his sleigh?
Yeah.
Something totally unrelated.
But I want to know, if I'm hoping, Fabiola, do you know, is the interview with Jeremy Strong where he says very high camp, was he talking about Succession in that clip?
I have no idea. It's like that out of context.
I think that clip, that those series of quotes should be used as like a reaction video to.
You should make like a remix.
Everything.
Try to get a remix of it and use it like an intro.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, should we just get Jeremy Strong saying very high camp and put that in our introduction to every single episode?
Honestly, do it. Like, it's too like good not to use.
Exactly.
Yes. Slay. Very high camp.
All right, so we're ready to talk about the only good, an actually good superhero movie.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, let's get started. Hello and welcome to It's Giving Camp. I'm Saffron.
And I'm Fabiola.
And today we have with us our guest.
Hi, it's Nicole. Nicole Veneto, to be specific. I am the co-host of Marvelous, or The Depth of Cinema, where me and my co-host, Discourse Stew, Tyrell James, we are doing the very masochistic thing, which is watching pretty much like every movie in the MCU, as well as like DCU as well. Still trying to eventually fill like the backlog of like older Marvel movies, but just charting the descent into the Marvel machine that has now become Hollywood and the blockbuster formula, and just mapping how cinema is dying, because it's just swimming in IP. But we agreed so far, we just finished phase 2, and we agree probably the best that we had watched so far was unfortunately The Dark Knight, which I think just turned like 14 today, which is interesting. Just I guess to segue into the movie we're doing, but yeah, we're going to have to tackle the next few movies in the DCU, so we're gonna have to watch fucking Batman versus Superman and Suicide Squad, which I saw in theaters, and oh boy, is that movie stinky. PU. At least I didn't pay for the tickets. I won like free AMC tickets at a Rocky Horror Picture Show like event, and I brought my friend Cormac, who's like a meme douchebag shit lord like I am. We're like, oh, we're gonna go see this because the marketing for it was already like Hot Topic the movie. The day the like first images of the Joker, Jared Leto Joker dropped, and just the fucking damage tattoo on his head, everyone was like, this is gonna be shit. But I do remember after seeing it, the one thing I was like, you know, that Margot Robbie, they gave her some terrible fucking dialogue, but she did her own fucking stunts. And you know what? She rocked it. As I can see her as Harley. They shouldn't have just given her all this bad like Hot Topic t-shirt dialogue though. And
now she is Harley.
And then Birds of Prey was actually, I think, the last movie I saw in theaters before COVID.
Same.
Yeah, same.
That we saw it in theaters together before COVID.
It was, I was delighted. It was, I don't know if either of you have seen Tank Girl.
No.
I've seen parts of it.
It's DC's Tank Girl. I highly recommend Tank Girl. Tank Girl is great. Very, very campy. I think you guys would love to do an episode on it. But I really, really love Margot Robbie as Harley. I think it's nice, kind of nice. Like, this world sucks, but it's nice that we live in a world where like we have such a talented actress that she can, on the one hand, like play a crazy badass clown lady, and on the other hand, Barbie.
Yes.
Like, and I think there's just inherent camp in that. Like I reread Susan Sontag's notes on camp. Not that it's the be all and end all on camp sensibilities, but like the emphasis on specifically like artifice and like the exaggeration, and like exaggeration is very much Harley Quinn's character.
Yeah, agreed.
And that's exaggeration is also just the very formula behind what makes the Suicide Squad an actually good movie. I know, yeah. So I know Fabiola's like burning to talk about this because it's her favorite movie. So I will hand the mic off to her.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, there's something about it that just, it does something to my brain. But should we like do a kind of plot summary?
Yeah, have we said yet we're discussing the Suicide Squad?
As not Suicide Squad, not the David Ayer shit fest that we are talking about the Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn. And actually, before we start, I do want to give a shout out because I think it's very, very important that we acknowledge the person that is largely, arguably, responsible for this movie happening, and that is Mike Gorilla Mindfet Cernovich for losing his shit over James Gunn's cool tweets and then crying and calling his boss to get him fired
from Marvel.
Mike Cernovich basically getting James Gunn fired from Marvel is the reason we have this movie, and I think there's something amazing in that. It's just so ironically funny, if not kind of campy, maybe, how the situation played out.
Yeah. It didn't even work, right? Because now he is.
No, because now it didn't even work in the end because Kevin Feige, like Marvel, or the people at Disney, I guess, they saw, how well James Gunn was getting along, like how well James Gunn was getting along with the Suicide Squad. Not that it was as big of a hit at the box office. Like, I think it underperformed. It didn't make back its entire budget at the box office, which is shocking. But I think that was partly because of COVID. Disney saw both like how well that production was going and just how many people were like, James Gunn is like the only real actual director Marvel Studios has. It's like John Watts and then the Property Brothers, which is just my affectionate nickname for the Russos. So it's arguably the best thing that ever happened to DCU, except for hiring Kathy on for Birds of Prey. That was a great fucking decision.
Yeah, so one of my main sources that I wrote about is the New York Times profile on James Gunn that they made a few weeks before the Suicide Squad came out, where they they made a timeline of the order of events. Like the firing happened, like the old tweets resurfaced July 2018 and was rehired by Marvel on March 2019. So it was way before the Suicide Squad probably even started filming.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah. I think it was like they were. I read a little bit of production stuff because I kind of approached this similar to how I do with my own podcast. And I also just like looking at production stuff. But there were like several directors like Warner was eyeing before like James Gunn became available, and wouldn't you know, all of them were like terrible.
Yeah, after all those other director names got thrown around, James got fired, but then Warner Brothers called him the Monday after that happened. So pretty immediately.
That was such a smart business move. Just like just swooping in like a guy like who's just like who's just really thirsty for a girl who's just recently broken up for their girlfriend. Like it's
Yes.
Yeah, and they apparently first offered him a Superman movie, which is an even bolder move. It's an even bolder move. Like, here's the biggest superhero.
Yeah.
That we already have ruined.
Did he turn it down, or did he?
I think he did.
Yeah.
I read that he had gone to like after this like conversation was initiated, he was like, well, like Warner basically was like, okay, you don't want to do Superman, take your pick. What the fuck do you, they gave him like carte blanche. And he was like, you know what? I want to do a Suicide Squad movie. And the only stipulation basically Warner had, and I don't think I've ever disclosed this. I know on Twitter I kind of have like beef with Warner Brothers because they refused to release the uncut version of The Devils on in America. So fuck you, Warner. But Warner, they were like, okay, our only stipulation, James Gunn, we're not going to breathe down your neck while you're making this movie. We're not going to give you like a rubric like Kevin Feige would give you, where it's like you got to do this. It has to tie into this. Their only stipulation was please bring back Margot Robbie.
Oh, so they asked for Margot.
Yeah,
because she's the only good thing in that Suicide Squad movie.
Yeah.
Like she's the only good thing.
Yeah, in the profile, he says that Warner Brothers said that they would like Margot to be in there, but you don't have to put her there.
Yeah.
But we would like her to be there.
They wanted James Gunn that bad.
Wow.
Like it's like almost like I imagine like a Bette Davis, Joan Crawford like rivalry between like Kevin Feige and whoever is the deemed face of the DCU. I don't know who the fuck is running it. Or I'm just imagining like two queens going at it, like and like James Gunn is basically like it's like a child custody battle.
Yeah.
Oh, the one thing I did look up, that apparently James Gunn proposed the title The Suicide Squad as a complete joke, and the execs at Warner Brothers were like, it's perfect. And James Gunn was like, I literally just put the in front of it, but okay,
that's camp.
Oh, we should probably give a little bit of a plot summary of what's going on in this movie, because it's
yeah. How do we summarize the Suicide Squad for someone who doesn't know the concept of Suicide Squad?
I feel like I could do it. So the Suicide Squad as a concept is about the government having this team called Task Force X, and it's utilized for shady operations either on US soil or abroad, where if something goes wrong, they can easily blame the villains because it's oh look, a bunch of villains running around. Of course, they did something bad. And it's headed by Amanda Waller, played by Viola Davis. And this movie is basically the mission where the squad is sent out to destroy some documents / government experiment in the fictional Latin American island of Corto Maltese.
And they find a much bigger problem going on over there. Literally.
Yes. And the main characters on the team, there's initially 2 teams, but they join up together. We have, obviously, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. Idris Elba.
Where's her Oscar? Where is her Oscar? I've made this point several times, but like, we've now given 2 different actors Oscars for playing the Joker. Where is Margot Robbie's? Although I foresee an Academy Award in the future. Maybe for Barbie. Maybe for Barbie.
Oh, I hope
but like,
so.
she's already been nominated.
Where's the Oscar for Harley? For that
where's
role
the Oscar for Harley? In this movie, she's just like they should have given her an honorary Oscar, or just for like the first Suicide Squad, just for like putting up with that shit and doing all of her own stunts, basically.
Yeah.
She did what she could with that movie.
Side note, there should be Oscars for stunts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyway, so we've got the Margot Robbie, we've got Idris Elba as Bloodsport, we have Sylvester Stallone voicing Shark.
King Shark. Who is an all CG, like, motion capture character, not unlike I've watched a couple James Gunn movies. Like, I watched Slither in a short film he did, as well as Guardians of the Galaxy, and he kind of has an affinity towards like either small little guys or creatures just running around doing like heinous shit. I joked earlier that I am Moe through helplessness. No, King Shark is Moe through helplessness and hunger, but he learns to love and have friends. Just so touching. Oh my god, there are emotional character arcs in this fucking movie.
It is found family. It does what superhero, like, it is
actually found family. Oh my god, yeah.
Okay, wait. So who's the rest of this cast? Oh my god, it's such a cast.
Ratcatcher 2.
Yes.
Daughter of Ratcatcher 1. Oh my god, what's the actress's name?
Daniela.
I love
Melchior.
her. She's fantastic. She's great. Her father is Taika Waititi. We also have
John Cena as Peacemaker.
John Cena as Peacemaker. The John Cena.
John Cena, who is a good ass actor,
who is perfectly cast in this role.
Yeah. Like, and I think I made a note, like, could you argue his like casting as Peacemaker is kind of camp in it? If not like, like, obviously not naive camp. Like, this movie I would put in the category of like deliberate camp. Not that makes that any lesser, but like, it knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of like whether anyone's really looked at the relationship between like camp and like meta references, like metatextual sort of like meaning. Cause I feel like there is something to be like mined from casting like this someone like John Cena in a role like this that is like, Peacemaker is what Captain America would actually be in real life. Not a sweet, good-hearted, himbo, but a despicable, basically right-wing crazy person with a gun and a stupid helmet.
Yeah, Peacemaker for me is one of the many camp aspects of this movie, like not just with the casting of John Cena, because the movie is really aware of what John Cena looks like physically.
Yes.
Like, the movie knows that most people do not look like this, and this in question is basically a real life comic book character like the way that they're drawn.
He's got JoJo proportions, basically.
His veins in his arms are just bulging.
They're just popping out constantly. They're like that one picture. His arms look like that one meme picture of the kid that's like,
yes, yeah, I know exactly.
The kid with the throbbing vein. He's like, don't nut. Like, that's what John Cena's arms always look like.
That's why they hold him flag. Nothing like a bloodbath to start the day.
They call you peacemaker.
I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it.
I thought you were the crazy one.
Oh, yeah.
And I also love Peacemaker's outfit.
Oh, it's so campy too.
It's very much in the vein. It looks exactly like how it's drawn in the Silver Age comics.
Yeah, it looks very like 50s, 60s era.
Yeah. And like overall in the film, it's very camp how much it embraces pulpy iconography, especially in contrast to every other superhero movie that's coming out.
Oh, it's so refreshing. Head explosions, actual sets, which apparently the sets built for this movie are apparently the biggest that have ever been made for a Warner Brothers production.
Oh,
which,
wow.
when you think about it, is fucking crazy or insane to think about. Like, they like how many major intellectual properties just Warner like have, like, Harry Potter, all these other fucking big blockbuster movies, but like James Gunn, he was like, he made that like beach set that like opens the movie where half the cast we didn't introduce the other cast because the other team too much, because most of them just get murked immediately, including Pete Davidson. He gets his face shot off in the most satisfying way.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people were worried he was going to be like the James Leto. James Leto? Who the fuck is James Leto? Jared Leto of this movie. Because like just kind of similar vibes from their like public image. And then he just like not even 15 minutes in gets shot in the fucking face. And it's
also so fun that they set up like Michael Rooker? How do you say his last name? Yeah, Michael Rooker is savant, and he's how it opens, and he's this brooding character. He's got the Johnny Cash.
That opening shot camera movement is so good too.
And then he's the character who panics and tries to run and gets his head blown, and then like 10-15 minutes in, we suddenly switch to, here's our actual main character.
More importantly, he gets killed and his blood is used to provide Warner Brothers Proudly Presents.
Yes.
Which, oh my God, I could talk about another thing I love the like creative transitions and like opening titles and like, meanwhile, like the location that's so inspired and does so much, rather than like, I watch a fucking bland ass Marvel movie that's in the corner. New York, July 5th, 8:17 in the morning. Okay.
It looks like,
and it's just an overhead shot of like a fake CGI constructed fucking ugly ass building.
I think the thing with, so I don't read a lot of comics, but is it fair to say that those like title cards are very much like comic book panels?
Yeah. Not only in the sense that they're very clearly taking up a lot of space in the frame, but also in their interactions with the rest of the illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
This movie has such a like great use of cinematography. Like everything is bright. Like I can see things. It's not all like gray. It's not the light. There's lighting.
The lighting is so gorgeous in this movie.
I can see people, like even in the fucking like jungle scenes, I can see people. Like it's not like, Robert Pattinson, standing in the corner and I just see like his chin.
I honestly can't think of like any superhero film that has scenes that take place in like broad daylight. Like there's the scenes in when they're rescuing Harley Quinn that's like it's in a square, a stone square, and it's like day. It's middle of the day. They're just walking around.
It's also really bright daylight because this movie does a lot of really cool backlighting, so it just makes everything look way brighter.
Mm-hmm.
Which you want, because you know what? Comic books are colorful. Why you wouldn't want to make a colorful like comic book adaptation is beyond me, which was, you know, why I found like Man of Steel so like shockingly off tone. And also like I'm known to be a bit of a gore hound. One thing means to consistently complain about is just uh the lack of violence and like explicit, like, you know, stuff like that. You know, someone gets shot and they just fall over. Maybe there's some CGI like blood spray. It's not anything like. So far, the best death we have watched in a Marvel movie came in the Captain America movie when a guy gets like shredded in a plane propeller. That's it. That is, and then like, oh yeah, and Tim Roth gets like yeeted into a tree in like the Incredible Hulk movie. That's more like funny. But like I've said on numerous episodes, like, how cool would it be if like Iron Man just ripped a guy's head off, or like or like Hulk just ate a guy or something. Like,
well, we see heads being ripped off and people being eaten.
Heads being ripped off, head explosions, decapitations. The end, Doctor Who gets like thrown. He gets his arm ripped off and thrown and splattered against a wall. It's fucking great.
Yeah. One of the, like, not only does this movie look visually really beautiful, it's also kind of trashy in the sense that it's like really gory, and it's just very much willing to be unsavory in ways that so many other superhero movies do not want to do that at all.
Which I've seen you kind of mention, like it's like a kind of a cup of Verhoeven in there, which
Yeah.
I would agree, especially in the way like just the use of violence.
Yeah. I have two thoughts about the violence in the sense of like, first off, I think something that we've kind of talked about when we were like talking about Buffy was this idea of like poor special effects can often gets called like campy.
Yeah.
And this film, I think the FX are like really good, actually.
They're incredible.
Like, it's really gory and it like it's bloody and it looks real.
Yeah. And there are some practical effects in there too, which is like,
and I think that's interesting to think of like, oh, like highly stylized and like highly like practical and highly good can still be camp, because it's like on the other end of extreme.
I actually have an opinion on that, and I think it's kind of like if you look into it, like Marvel movies, and so like a lot of movies in these genres, they want them to be shot like with a lot of coverage so that they're basically made in post, like in editing, so they can, you know, change shit around. They don't have to commit to like a singular vision. That's why they're always standing in front of green screens, because, you know, the producers can't agree on what shade the sky should be in the background or whatever, so they're like, fuck it, we're not gonna hire, you know, union working set designers or builders. We're just gonna make a bunch of people in Korea work long hours to get this done by like the end of this week. But like, just because that is the like, we've gotten to a point now where like television looks better than a lot of movies.
Yeah.
So it's like a reversal from, you know, whereas like, you know, you would expect like Buffy, like something like in the 90s with those kind of effects, but like now we're like so used to seeing like all right CG that a lot of it just, you know, glazes over because it's so shiny and smooth and pristine, whereas like now they're reserving kind of the hardcore edgier stuff for like HBO and television, like prestige TV. So I think it's like to a degree kind of like not necessarily camp, but like almost just like very deliberate, I think, on James Gunn's part, like really not like seeing how septic a lot of these, you know, big budget bloated Marvel movies and hell DCU movies too are and being like, you know, we can do so much fun shit with violence. Why aren't we utilizing like all of the filmmaking technologies and processes we have at our disposal? Like, why are we streamlining this product? So I think it's also a lot of that as well. I don't know, Fabiola, what do you think?
Yeah, like I love just how textured this movie is. And yeah, it's textured in the sense that a lot of other blockbuster movies nowadays aren't. They look really digital and very smooth. Meanwhile, this movie, you really feel like you can touch it, and I feel like it kind of correlates to how like really kind of sleazy the vibe of the movie is,
I
because
love
it's
the
like
sleaze.
so
Yeah, it's like 70s grindhouse a little bit.
yeah, and how like the opening scene and all the jungle scenes really reminded me of like Vietnam movies, which adds in a retro aspect.
Yeah, or even, you know, like a fucking like a Apocalypse Now, or even like a Rambo or something like that, or even just like a cheapo B movie. Like, yeah, no, and also the fact that it's like real leaves. They're not walking through like past like maybe a real tree or two, and everything else is CG. Like the fact that this movie has a material, like there's a real materiality to it, and camp is very much a sensibility of like artifice and material and extravagance. And the fact that this is a movie that actually indulges in filmmaking for a superhero movie, like, God, I'd be damned. And I'm also like, just by comparison, like I noted this on my Guardians of the Galaxy episode, just how very much restrained James Gunn is in that movie compared to this. Because I watched this before I rewatched Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a smart decision, because this is James Gunn like off the leash, like with Slither. I haven't seen Super, but I know Super goes like real hardcore. Like this is James Gunn. When you leave him the fuck alone, let him make something good. And actually, you know what? Can we talk about, while we're kind of on the topic of Fabiola, while you brought up like, you know, wanting to like see and touch everything. Like, I just think the best scene of the movie, there's a lot of great scenes in this movie, but personally, my favorite, I think you'll agree, is Harley Quinn breaking out of the president's house. He's the president,
one of the
like the prime minister.
Highlights of the movie. Yeah, I think it's the like, president's house / a holding area for prisoners or something. But yeah, that's one of the camp heights of the movie for so many reasons.
Because like especially at one point, like Harley Quinn, she's got like the javelin, and she's just like ripping people's throats out. But the way, like, you know, there's blood, of course, and like, you know, you see some gnarly shit, but there's also like flowers and hearts and butterflies and shit that like come out. There's like digital, so it's birds. It's animated, and like it's a great use of like CG-ish animation too, because it's like letting us see the blood, but it's also like at the same time kind of to like James Gunn's benefit, because I know like the MPAA, well, they're the MPA now, but I know for a fact they really don't like blood splatter too much. They've like given movies NC-17s in the past over like, not that that's a huge rating now, but they've given it over like, you know, you can't be having the blood like spray out so much. Like that was a problem with like I think like the original cut of RoboCop. But like, yeah, like, you know, the more savage that scene goes on, she's just like, it's like Harley Vision. I think there's a inherent campiness to the tying of like, you know, cutesy kitsch, like cutesy aesthetic and like grotesque violence. Like there's something inherently camp to that.
It's also very like ballet-ish when she's like twirling around in that beautiful dress. And it's the combination of all those things.
I do think that like the Harley vision of like the colors and the explosions when she's doing violence, like I love how it's stylized in the Suicide Squad. I do feel like that must be like Kathy Yon like did it first with Birds of Prey.
I can't wait to rewatch Birds of Prey too.
Because in that film, there's also
remember
like
that was
the
also
explosions of pink and blue and hearts and stuff in that. And so I'm glad that that's like kind of a stylistic choice that has been carried over, but also in each film each director has their own kind of style of doing it.
Yeah, not David Ayer. or the producers that maybe not that his original cut of Suicide Squad was probably any good. It was probably terrible, but the
production made it worse.
The production made it worse, and the producers on this movie had the wise decision to just leave James Gunn the fuck alone and let him do what he wants and let him cast his brother as a disgusting, nasty weasel. That is totally a meta like commentary, like James Gunn own joke on like how merchandisable like Rocket Raccoon became. Because that's like how fucking Peacemaker would be Captain America in real life. Weasel would be Rocket Raccoon in real life. A thing like what's that line, like, you know, he's killed like 30 kids.
They're like, this thing is not cute.
It's disgusting. It's drooling. I think it has like a little dick too.
Yo, is this a dog?
What?
Is this thing a dog?
A dog?
Yes.
What kind of dog do you think it is, mate?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with all the breeds.
I'm gonna go with Afghan Hound.
Since when does an Afghan Hound have bloody thumbs?
Oh my god, is it a werewolf? I wanted to meet a werewolf forever.
Yo, they turned me into a werewolf?
Right.
Yo, let me out. I do not fuck a werewolf, bro.
I have so many like questions and things that I want to bring up, and maybe one that is kind of like a transition from specifically that Harley scene is like asking about the soundtrack and the music. This is for both of you, because I'm curious what you think of the kind of music that plays in this film. And like I feel like I remember, Fabiola, I've heard you talking before about how you think like the era of the songs that are picked out is really interesting.
Yeah, I really like the music in this movie, mostly because you can tell that it's music that James genuinely likes, because in a lot of other movies with licensed music, it's usually just slapping on whatever popular old song there is. And even though a lot of these are old songs, they're songs that you can tell he genuinely likes. And I loved how they kind of fit the vibe of the characters in the movie specifically. Like, they gelled really well.
Yeah, I think it's so like the needle drops aren't like
cynical.
They aren't cynical. I was also gonna say, like, they're like not already super popular iconic songs
and or super obvious, or I've discussed this a lot because Marvel is known for their needle drops. Like, James Gunn made Guardians of the Galaxy, and Guardians of the Galaxy is like a huge reason it was super popular, even though like Guardians was not a very well-known Marvel like property when it was released, was because of the soundtrack and because of the use of music. Like, I have a friend of mine who like he bought like a Guardians of the Galaxy like edition, like vinyl with a like I think it came with a record player too. like a
Wow.
vinyl record player. Yeah, like the freaking merchandising for Guardians of the Galaxy was like insane. That's why we called our episode fucking Assemble Pump Funko Pops.
Yeah.
But like in this movie, like it also feels like casting like casting John Cena and like using the violence. Like it feels like also very like a deliberate commentary on what superhero movies are doing today. Like Iron Man kind of started the whole like needle drop. You need to have a good needle drop. You need to have a needle drop in your superhero movie. You know, I am Iron Man. The worst example of it was like the use of the Clash in Iron Man 2, which is like Joe Strummer would have none of this, you fucking asshole. Or like I think the worst example is also just the first Suicide Squad movie, which the first hour of which is literally like a music video, just obvious song after obvious song after
and they're
obvious
only
song,
played
like,
for like 5 seconds each.
yeah, it's like, oh look, we're introducing Harley Quinn. Oh, you don't own me. It's
Yeah.
like so stupidly obvious, like something like a 14-year-old would come up with a better like track of like music to accompany it.
I feel like music often in needle drops often gets used in as like a stand-in for character development.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
It becomes exposition.
It becomes like, oh, this is how we gotta feel about this character. Oh, you know, here's the attitude of Harley Quinn. You don't own her. Or like,
Yeah.
I don't know. They were playing some like Spanish rap when what's that character they totally waste name with the fire powers and the cool like skull tattoo. But like this movie, you can read this movie as like James Gunn like kicking the shit out of Ayer's Suicide Squad.
We're discussing like a lot of these camp elements of this film and thinking about it as like a superhero film as well, and what does it mean for the superhero genre. It also just works as a film, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the best of these movies work as films by themselves. Like The Dark Knight, even if it like wasn't necessarily a Batman movie, even I mean if it wasn't okay, let's be real. If The Dark Knight didn't have Batman on it, it would just be a very obvious like Michael Mann ripoff. But I think it has enough story elements that like, you know, you can just give the characters different names and it works on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, whereas like most of these movies, all of the hype and the entertainment value is attached to like the IP itself and the characters and like the tapping into like the fan base that already exists for these characters. And what James Gunn does that's brilliant is he just takes like he scrapes the bottom of the barrel for the stupidest ass like superheroes, like fucking Polka Dot Man,
TJ
like,
Kid, the
detachable kid. There's Javelin, just a guy who throws a javelin, which is great. And also like you can just like that aspect as well, like, you know, just the idea of even just scraping the bottom of the barrel, the IP bin. And you know what the brilliant thing is, he gives them an actual character in an arc,
and they're real, right? Like the Polka Dot Man is a real like DC character.
He's a Batman villain, I think.
Yeah, and one of the many really cool things about this movie is that it doesn't really try to make fun of him. It just takes this character really seriously and with the power. And I love the juxtaposition of the very bright polka dots and the darkness that they carry thematically, and also body
he's
horror-y.
got like the emo kid like hair bowl cut too.
Yeah, the body horror is also, that's such a great...
the body horror element is, I've also said, like, we need more body horror in our superhero movies, and this movie delivers on that. There's like the scene where they finally see like, oh, we've been like we as in the United States Empire and, you know, Amanda Waller and whatnot, basically been like helping run like these horrific experiments using we didn't even say the main villain of this movie is a giant fucking starfish.
Yeah.
Like the size of like
Pink and blue
7
starfish.
skyscrapers. Yeah, with a big ass eye. It's fucking Patrick Star, but scary and disgusting. And it makes like little baby versions of itself that like fly onto your face like a face hugger from Alien and like control you like a zombie. So there's the Suicide Squad, rolls up, sees the experiment, and there's just like a guy with like just the upper half of his body, and there's just like guts spilling out and no legs. Like,
yeah,
just like twitching, and it's horrifying, and it's practical. It's like that's not a CGI like blood. That's like an actual prop, and it was amazing. God, this movie, I might actually have to like really rewatch again shortly and maybe bump up my rating from like a 4 to a 4.5 because it's really a miracle this movie exists. And it's not like in the Deadpool model where like all the jokes are like, oh, it's pop culture references, or like the joke is solely like, it's a superhero movie, but he swears and says poop. There's an actual heartfelt, like emotional core to the characters in these movies, like I almost said Deadshot, Bloodsport's relationship with his daughter, played by Storm Reed, King Shark developing like a understanding of friendship. People are friends, not food. Ratcatcher's arc, her like getting Bloodsport to eventually like pet her rat, like that's the final shot of the movie too. Is Bloodsport slowly petting this cute little CGI rat, which I don't mind that it's a CGI rat, not that they were gonna use.
I think there are 2 real rats.
I like that he has a little backpack too, that's so cute. And like the polka dot man, he dies at the end, but he dies a hero, and he dies literally saying like the last thing he says before he dies is, I'm a real superhero. And that's like completion of an arc. Like the fact that this movie has like emotional arcs, like even Harley Quinn, her little arc is, she realizes, like, not that she didn't already realize this in Birds of Prey, but like, bitch, I don't need like, I know my boundaries. This is an unhealthy relationship, so I'm just gonna like kill you before you do any more genocide.
And she's monologuing as this
so
man is dying in front of her, and
which
she
so
just keeps talking.
I think that's one of my favorite. Like, I feel like this film has a lot of like subversion of superhero tropes, and I love that moment is like, he's about to villain monologue and she just immediately shoots him. She gets the monologue.
If anyone dares to say a negative word about their new presidente, their parents, their children, and anyone they ever loved will be sent to Jotunheim to feed the beast.
I'm sorry. Recently, I made a promise to myself that the next time I got a boyfriend, I'd be on the lookout for red flags. And if I saw any, I would do the healthy thing. And I would murder him. And killing kids, it's kind of a red flag.
I also think that the bringing up this idea of like the hero, like polka dot hero man getting to be the hero, like that's something that you've talked about a lot, right, Fabiola? That this is like the idea of camp of like not intending to be a hero, but you are a hero.
Yeah, you said that on the first episode, I remember, and I had that mindset thinking about this movie.
And that kind of brings me back to the last shot of petting the rat. And I feel like so much of the movie is, and camp in general, is about what petting the rat means. It's about
it's a metaphor.
Embracing. Yeah, it's about just like embracing,
oh my God,
like
I never thought
trash
of it that way.
or
amazing.
low culture.
Yes.
Which,
oh my God. This movie is actually genius. Shit.
The monologue, like I felt like I didn't even think about that for the final shot. We're watching this film and hearing like rewatching the scene of like the flashback of Cleo or Ratcatcher 2 and her father, and where he's like, oh, like if the most
Taika
despised...
Waititi in a wig doing a Portuguese accent.
But like it's like the line is something like the most despised creatures have a purpose, then everyone has a purpose. I was like, wait, that's them. They're like everyone can be a hero.
Yeah, there's also that like aspect in Notes on Camp, again, not that Susan Sontag's essay is the be all end all on you know, camp aesthetics, but like there's a line in the essay where, you know, she describes camp sensibility as like things being what they are not, like bad guys being superheroes. That is basically the plot of this movie, like and a summary of this movie. Bad guys being superheroes, like that is like it's superheroes in quotation marks. It's the camp concept when you pitch it like that inherently.
That also kind of leads me to one of my favorite scenes that I just realized like how special it is in my rewatch. It's the strip club scene, which it's just so beautiful, and I love that it takes place in a strip club, which most movies would not set like such a joyous, beautiful scene at a strip club.
To just talk about how it's such a joyous scene, I think that, like, I don't know, Nicole, have you had a lot of fun like watching these superhero films like on your episode?
I mean, I get like fun out of like making fun of them.
Yeah.
What's not fun is like when I realize I'm like, I've been watching a movie and like pausing to take notes for like an hour and a half, and I still have like an hour and 45 minutes of runtime left, and that's going to take me like 2 hours to get, more than 2 hours to get through. That's not fun. But like,
is this movie fun?
There's such a there's been such a loss of like spectacle. Like I think the last time I had a good time with a Marvel movie was that first Avengers. And that's still like, you know, been very watered down since like my first reaction when it came out in like 2012. You know, just spectacle is like a key thing of cinema, and like I want to be entertained and I want to feel like joy.
Well.
Yeah, like when I watch something, I want to see like colors and people having a good time, and you know, people doing wild ass shit that I, you know, can't see anywhere else. You know, not, you know, someone, you know, saying things you'd put on a t-shirt in a poorly lit room and it's like gray shade, color corrected, and looks terrible. But like this movie I had like genuine joy watching. Like I was clapping, and I was watching this movie like by myself, like in my room, like in my apartment. And I mean, I do this all the time. Like my roommates like thought it was kind of nuts for a couple weeks, because I would just be like in my room watching movies. I'd be like, oh hell no, oh god, and just like cheering and like hooting and hollering like fucking De Niro during Cape Fear. So I was raising the fucking roof during Suicide Squad. Like, and yeah, that the strip club scene, I don't know, there should just be more strip club scenes in movies in general. There's just like there's a specific aesthetic. It's also kind of why I love the movie Zola so much.
Yeah.
Like there's such a shiny, like, you know, it's
so
also
good.
like very much about artifice. Like it shares that connection very much with camp, like you know, glitter, just all these different like surfaces, sleaze,
and like performance of femininity.
Yeah, like it's very material. Long story short, my joy watching these Marvel movies is, you know, has been progressively and steadily like declining. This is like Suicide Squad is a breath of fresh air. Like after like choking on sawdust for like several weeks.
How about some, what do you guys drink around here? Fernet? I'm gonna round of Fernet for the table. Comprende?
See.
Hey, Peacemaker. We're on a mission. Easy, Inspector Gadget. Little drink never hurt nobody.
Except for the thousands of people killed in drunk driving accidents every year.
Come on, boy. This could be our last drink.
Gracias.
Just one. You're gonna be that guy. I'm gonna be that guy. Hey, Chica. Forgot the rep.
Here's to being alive in 3 hours.
I'll be alive. You speak for yourself.
One of the last things I want to say is, because we talk about how camp is layers, and I think one of the layers that I love about this film is that it's so like anti-imperialist and like anti like very much criticizing America. And
yeah, as much as these movies can do, like it's the most explicit about it, like compared to all these other movies where it's just a gesture. It's just a gesture. Like the best example, and by I mean like the worst, is also like Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which everyone remembers that movie being like oh, it's super critical of the American security state, and America's the bad guys, like making it out to be like some like anti-fascist classic, and it's not at all. It's completely it's not. So it's just seeing this, like, as far as this movie can go, which there's still restraints on like how like political this movie can get in delving and criticizing like American empire, because this is like a big budget major Hollywood studio like production, but like you understand that Amanda Waller is the bad guy in this situation. It's not like this isn't like a movie, like a Marvel movie where Shield, it's like, oh, they're a covert organization, but they're good at heart. It's like, no, the covert operation working here is like snaky and like terrible as shit, and they're funding all sorts of god-awful things in the global south, and like killing people and shit just for preservation of the empire. And this movie makes a point of saying like, this is what we do, like literally.
And
like,
even like it says like, okay, America is covering up these operations. It also has our heroes, in quotes, are also villains, and they also enact a bunch of violence on the people of Corto Maltese. And I think one of the scenes that like sticks out in my mind is that we have this like, oh, it's like this fun like competition between Bloodsport and Peacemaker.
Oh yeah, when they go into the camp, and it's the joke is at the end, it's
they're killing all these people, and then
they're killing all these people, and they're actually their allies. They're against like the military regime on the island.
And the rebel leader is like,
she's like, what the fuck do you just do?
And she's like, you Americans, like, it's directly like, even though they end up being the heroes, it still has this like message of like, America is violent, and America,
and Peacemaker is just that embodied too. Like the American the American empire spirit, like embodied. That is, if you want to know what a true American superhero, like a guy who'd be like, as I said, the real Captain America would be Peacemaker. And he would be like executing like people for jaywalking, or not. No, he'd be like trying to like assassinate like Colin Kaepernick for kneeling, or whatever. Like, like that's America. That is America.
Yeah, and the camp of Peacemaker is not just his Silver Age outfit. It's that in combination with how really scary he is in this movie. It's both of those things working together.
Yeah, which like I also think there's something to be said about camp, and like as I said earlier, like there's an inherent campiness to the merging of cute aesthetics and like horrible violence. Like camp sensibility, I feel, is so much like the combination of two very contrasting things together. Not to say that's always camp, but I feel like that it's a thing that's used often, or very common in campy sensibilities. There's something that, or a way of drawing out something that's very campy, or like a meaning or an interpretation, or just view of something through a camp lens is provided through like a stark contrast. And that's the brilliance of this movie, I think, in contrasting like the bright aesthetics of, you know, what used to be superhero movies. Like, remember when superhero movies were like colorful and had like some practical effects and people in costumes, and they weren't just like walking around and like on a green screen in like a green morph suit with like little baubles attached to themselves. Like, you know, you know, as I haven't seen the like Batman and Robin, but like as bad as people think that movie is, it has a look to it. Like, this movie has a look to it, but it also, you know, has insanely grotesque, disgusting violence and a giant horrifying space starfish that like rips Doctor Who apart at the end.
I just want to keep talking about Harley.
And it's so hard not to keep talking about Harley.
Yeah.
We need to talk about Harley. There you go. There's your episode title. We need to talk about Harley. She's so good. I love her.
Yeah, and just the amount of layers and combinations that there are to her. Like, she's so deeply tragic, but so happy and hyper feminine, but also is like probably the most violent killer in this movie.
Could probably kill you with a thumbtack.
Yeah.
It's just really amazing how well Margot Robbie embodies this role. It's like a role she was born to play. Like, as with Barbie, I think I don't think any other actress could probably like pull off the sort of like combination of like, because she's like a classic Hollywood like blonde bombshell beauty.
Yeah.
But that in combination with like Harley's vulgarity and her like insane manic pixie dream girl, like on crack and like rabid sort of personality. Like, it's that contrast as well between like the public image of her as a actress and a celebrity and like a public figure, and then just the crazy ass like out of control like juggalo id that is Harley Quinn. Like, that's the fact that she is like, again, it says a lot that like Warner Brothers, they were like, listen, our only stipulation, James Gunn, is that we'd like you to keep Margot Robbie. Like, they knew they struck gold, and that casting, I think, like we've already said, like the casting for Marvel movies often is what kind of keeps them from sinking completely into shit. They struck gold with Margot Robbie. She is just like, I can't sing my praises enough for her as Harley Quinn.
And Harley's like one of the greatest female characters of all time, and I'd argue one of the greatest camp icons as well.
Yeah.
Just, you know, she's always talking in that, you know, New York accent, you know, just
it's the hyper
like the fucking nanny. She talks like the nanny, like Fran Drescher. She's just, you know, doing like I love the scene there. The squad there, they've just captured the Thinker, Peter Capaldi, so Doctor Who, and they're like, you know, you tell anyone about this, you die. And Harley's just like going back and forth. You like, you know, you wear your pants backwards, you die. And she's just like going, like, she's just throwing out these stupid little things at him. And like, it's also nice to see a woman doing that as opposed to like, you know, boring guy that they're just like having throw soy dialogue and like stupid quips.
It's so self-aware, that scene too, because she's like, I am pacing back and forth.
I am walking back and forth. She's also just like, it's such a fun voice to do too. Like, no wonder she loves playing Harley. Yeah, she's also like camp embodied in a very feminine way as well. I agree.
We fail the mission, you die.
If we find out any information you give us is false, you die.
If we find out you have personalized license plates, you die.
What? No.
If you mismatch blacks you die.
No.
If you cough without covering your mouth.
Harley, those last three aren't things. Although, probably don't need to say this, but that isn't an open invitation for you to cough without covering your mouth.
The intro credits. I think like that's the one last thing I want that like we
Yes.
could talk about. It's
Yes.
the intro credits and the song selection. And
Yeah. The one we're seeing about everyone dying.
it's like very overtly violent and joyous. That
Yeah.
entire sequence.
It
Like
makes,
it's having fun with death.
it's having fun with
Yeah.
it's also like it's not hiding the fact that all of the people like working for Amanda Waller are so desensitized to death. They're
agents of
making
death,
bets
yeah.
about it. They're just like, oh, who's gonna die first? Well, I'll pay like $20. You know, it's this person.
Because there's that's also I feel like the Verhoeven element too, where it's like that is the most accurate representation of like what the United States government does than like anything you'll see in a Marvel movie.
The movie's very overtly having fun with these types of situations.
Yeah.
Camp is also a like, making the serious unserious, like that sort of aspect as well, like putting everything in quotation marks, but there's in doing that also it's like showing just how absurd it is in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like true. It's true to this. It's true to the vibes.
Just because you're criticizing what's happening doesn't mean you can't have fun with it.
I just I miss when movies were fun like this. Like I say miss as if like this movie didn't come out like last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, if anyone has listened to this podcast thus far, first go listen to my podcast as well.
Yes.
It's called Marvelous of the Death of Cinema. Yes, we also have a Patreon. So please, if you feel generous, consider becoming a patron of ours. Last thing I would say is just I highly recommend this movie to anyone who's fucking sick of bloated ass CG green screen Marvel movies.
Yeah.
It's also like a great movie in general.
And it's a great movie in general. If you love head explosions, come see this movie.
Do you have a Twitter or someplace that
Oh
people can
yes, I
find
completely
you?
forgot to share my handle. So my handle is basically the same for like all my social media. It's Katsuragi with a K. It's a pun on Misao Katsuragi's last name, and I came up with it in the shower. And I was like, I'm changing all of my social media handles to that now. So yeah, follow me on Twitter at Katsuragi.
You can find us on Twitter at GivingCampPod.
And on Instagram at It's Giving Camp Pod.
Our theme music that you are listening to right now is by Harrison Lurie.
Shout out to our patrons, Nicole and Jose.
I'm Saffron Heftegaub, and I'm online at Gaub Hefta.
And I'm Fabiola Liano, and you can find me on Twitter at Fabiola_Liano.
Thank you so much for listening, and if you enjoy our podcast, please recommend it to your friends.
But yeah, no, this was great. I am so happy I finally got to talk about a superhero movie that isn't just okay, if not like just aggressively mediocre and spelling the end of the film industry as we know it. So thank you guys for having me on so much.
Yeah, this was so fun. I've had so much fun.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah.